Hi, I'm Mike Glenn, Senior Pastor of Brentwood Baptist Church in Brentwood, Tennessee. Let me welcome you to our YouTube channel. We'd love for you to like us. Hit that little button that's somewhere on the screen, or hit that subscribe that I think is at the bottom here somewhere. And that'll let us know that we're kind of talking about things that you want to talk about and discuss, and we are grateful to be of some kind of help along the way. And that's why we're here. We want to kind of help you live day to day and find out those things that kind of get you from one day to the next. Because if you live enough good days, you'll end up living a good life. Now, most of us have friends. And we met the friend maybe when we started school, or when we enlisted into the Army, or started a new job. And we found somebody that we had something in common with. Maybe we were raised the same way, had the same kind of parents, we liked the same kind of rock group, same kind of sports team. We had something in common, and you started hanging out. Then maybe you found out, hey, we kind of like the same thing, we kind of do the same things. And you started a friendship. Most of us have friends that bring stuff to our life. They bring some kind of laughter, they bring some kind of insight, some kind of wisdom, some kind of strength or joy, but they bring something to us. Most of us don't tolerate friends that take a lot from us. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about that friend you have who, we used to call them in church life extra grace required. Do you know that kind of person who calls you too many times during the day, who always finds you in a group and wants to pull you aside to tell you something that they think is important that's really not. That gets concerned about this and concerned about that, and if you're not careful, they'll worry you to death. Or the friend who's messed up and now needs a friend. And you going and being their friend is going to cost you something. It's going to cost you something with the other friends because you chose to stick with this friend. So the question that I want you to ponder today is not who are the friends in my life and what do they bring, but what kind of friend are you? Are you the kind of friend who, brings a little laughter and energy to the party, or are you one of those black hole people that just suck the life out? Are you a friend who's only there when the times are good, or are you a friend who sticks with it no matter what? Several years ago, when I was in Greenville, South Carolina, one of the pastors there had a major moral failing. He was pastor of a significant church. It made the headlines of the paper. Everybody knew it. It was a pretty big deal. Because of what the pastor had done, he lost his church, and he lost all of his friends. All of his friends except one. And that friend worked at the local funeral home. Now, the reason I know this story is I was also a friend of the guy who worked at the funeral home. And so when I was hanging out one time before a funeral, this guy told me, he said, another famous pastor, if I said his name, you would know, had called him and said, I want you to be this kind of friend to the pastor who had fallen. And my funeral home friend said, wait a minute. This guy's messed up. He's hated all over town. Nobody likes this guy. Nobody is his friend. And the big pastor, the famous pastor, said, I remember when you didn't have any friends either, and I was your friend, so I want you to go be this guy's friend. There was a time for all of us when we were in a situation and we didn't have a friend. Nobody called us back. Nobody knew who we were. Or maybe we had crossed some line and made some terrible mistake, but you always remember the person who wouldn't give up on you. So when you have that person who needs a little too much time or who messes up, are you the kind of person that's going to give up on them? Or will you make the phone call and say, hey, let's meet for coffee, let's go to lunch, let's talk about where you are, let's talk about where you're going. Let's talk about how we get you back from where you are. Now, not everybody will respond to this. Sometimes they won't return your phone call. Sometimes they won't call you back. Sometimes they won't hang out with you. Sometimes they'll just leave. They want to go hide. They don't want to have anything to do with anybody. That happens. People make those choices. But what about the choice you make? That's what I want to talk about. What about the choice you make? Will you have the guts? Will you have the love to be a friend to your friend when nobody else will? To be the guy who calls and says, hey, I'm here, and I want you to know you're not by yourself. You don't know this about me, but I was fired from my first church. Yeah, That's a long story. Won't go into it here. But it happened. I was 24 years old, and I couldn't get anybody to call me back. I have never felt so alone, so scared in all of my life. So I made a rule, just a little rule to me. If I ever hear of a pastor friend that's in trouble, going through a hard time, I'll call. I don't care whose fault it is. I don't care what the reasons are. I'll call. I'll just let them know I've been where you are and you're not here by yourself. More times than not, I will hear later from that pastor, I was the only guy who called. So when your friend messes up and they need a friend, are you that friend? Are you the kind of friend that would be the friend to you that Jesus is to you? Because there was a time when only Jesus would be your friend. A lot of friends around you are hurting. A lot of them are lonely. A lot of them are broken. A lot of them have messed up, and they need a friend. So I'm praying today, you'll be that friend. I'm Mike Glenn. I'm the senior pastor at Brentwood Baptist Church, and this is our YouTube channel. We'd love for you to hit subscribe. We'd love to hear from you, and love for you to hit like. And I'll see you next time.